Welcome to the Keeping It Simple with Ferlon podcast interview edition. Today we have the best voice actress in the world, or Saundi Harrison-Cooksey.
I'll
How are
claim
you
that.
doing today, Saundi?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I am doing excellent. I'm very happy that you agreed to do this interview.
Of course.
This very difficult interview. This will be like an interrogation, just to let you
Uh-oh.
know. So, Sandy, I'm going to start and make it really simple on you. I want you to tell us who you are and how you got into voice acting. Where did you come from? Just tell us about who you are.
Goodness. Who am I? So I am who am I? I'm a wife.
Hmm.
I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a niece. I'm a cousin. I'm a best friend, and I am from Atlanta, Georgia, originally.
Hmm.
However, I went to school in many different places. No, my parents were not in
Military.
the
Okay.
armed services or anything. It's just that
Uh,
my father's from California, and my mom's from Atlanta, and they met in Atlanta, and so I've gone back and forth to California and Atlanta to live, go to school, blah blah blah. But
okay.
anyway, but I consider myself a native of Atlanta.
Hmm.
I was the only child for about 12 years,
Hmm.
and I used to just try to entertain myself. So I just would play with like I had a imaginary friend and all that kind of stuff. And so I just was very I don't know, dramatic or
Hmm.
whatever.
Hmm.
I loved, I don't know, TV because that was my entertainment.
Yeah.
So but I took the traditional route, with my parents, went to school. I
Hmm.
did go to a school of performing arts, believe it or not, but I
Nice.
didn't get into like drama or anything.
Hmm.
I also love dance, so I thought I was gonna be a dancer after I graduated from high school.
Uh-huh.
MTV, I'm dating myself, but MTV was like coming out and there was all the videos and I loved it. And I love
Yeah.
music too. So fast forward, went to college, Hampton,
Okay.
the other HU. No. And but before that, in high school, I thought about this the other day. Me and my best friend, we used to do the morning announcements. And I
Hmm.
loved it. You get on the speaker, the intercom system, and you do the
Yeah.
morning announcements. And I loved it. I mean, I
Nice.
truly would look forward to that. And I was so happy to do that, especially going to performing arts school. So that kind of made me want to be actually a reporter or a journalist. And
Oh,
so I
did.
was like, I want to, but more so an anchor person or a reporter.
Hmm.
So that was going to be my deal. But I went to college and I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I changed my major 15, 11 times. And then eventually I settled on psychology,
Hmm.
finished with that. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to do what I want to do. So I moved to New York on vacation. I went to New York to visit a friend and I was
Okay.
like, let me look for a job. And so I got a job because my plan was to be in entertainment. How
Okay.
I was gonna get there, I don't know. Anyway, I got a job as a social worker and I
Hmm.
loved it and it was nice. And then I was like, wait a minute, you said you were gonna come here to be an entertainer,
Hmm.
whatever that looked like. And so I started taking voice acting classes. And at
Nice.
that time in New York, and at that time, it was just a lot of celebrities doing, and it was New York too. It was a
Hmm.
lot of celebrities. So the
Yeah.
competition, I mean,
Intense.
it just was intense. And then I wasn't ready.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I kind of stopped. I was like, I want to eat. So I was like, this is a lot of sacrifice. And I wasn't ready for that at that time. So anyway, fast
Hmm.
forward, I moved back to Atlanta, joined a drama ministry because my faith is very, very important to me. And so I
Absolutely.
joined a drama ministry, which was not the typical, I don't know what the typical drama ministry in a church is, but we had some of the greatest people working there, and they are actually like writers for NBC and
Hmm.
work with Tyler Perry. So it was a really great time for me because I got a lot of good foundation and just teachings and all that. And so I
Hmm.
loved it. So I was in plays all the time. and I just
Mhm.
loved it, and then I actually met my husband
Oh,
at
nice.
the play. I was cast as the wife, and he was cast as the husband.
Oh, that's okay, so it
And
just worked
then real
out.
life I know. Then we got married. So,
Uh-huh.
anyway,
Right on the spot, right?
it yeah, like, during the play, no. So we got married, and, I was just like, "I wanna do voice acting." He was like, "We'll do it," you know?
Mhm,
So
mhm,
he kinda encouraged me along with just some other, people. I went on a mission trip, and I met my roommate, she went on to be an actress, and she's a well-known actress as well too,
mhm.
but it just, it was like God put all these people in my path at the right time.
Yeah, yeah.
So his timing is always perfect. But anyway, so I
Mhm,
started taking classes in 2013ish, and I loved it. I was also working a full-time job. I worked for a big media company down here. And
mhm.
so I was just like, "Oh my God, I love this. I'm going to quit my job." And, but slow down. So, I just been at it since 2013, and I think 2016 is really when I started getting my legs, if you will, and
Yeah.
or getting my voice and getting agents and booking spots, and it's just been great ever since.
No, that's really awesome, and so you've been doing voiceover for
I guess you
eh
could say about 10 or 11 years if you start counting
okay.
in 2013 when I first started taking lessons and coaching and all that kind of stuff.
So you've been voice acting for over 10 years, over a decade. And like, how would you say we know a lot of people want to get in the voiceover industry, and there's a whole lot to that. But how did you, from where you started, because you were saying you weren't very good at the beginning, which I think most people can say, how did you get to as good as you are now? What was that process like? Or what did you
Well,
do, I should say?
Well, you know what? When I after I took that class, which was probably about 6 to 9 months over time, because it started off at a beginning level, then an intermediate, and then an advanced, and then you got your demo.
And
So
what
after
what
I
what class is that actually? So
it was
you
just
can,
it was, it's no longer,
okay.
the woman retired, but it was just at a school. It
Oh,
was
okay.
actually at a acting school, a improv school, if you will, and so,
Okay.
she taught voiceover. So, and the classes were always filled, and so I did beginning, and each of her classes was like 8 to 10 weeks. So
Okay.
I did that, and the last class was called the demo class, and that's where it was a smaller group of people, and you can get your demo done like as you're taking the class. Like you would do your spots, and then she had an engineer who would mix some of those live spots when you're in the studio
Mhm.
practicing or learning, and make a demo.
That's
So
awesome.
after I got my demo, like I said, it was six of us, and we were in Atlanta, and it was only like a handful of agents, so we
Mhm.
all of course going to go to the same agent.
Oh, yeah,
And
that
we were
makes
like,
sense.
okay, after we got our demo and we listened, and of course we loved it, we were like, what do we do? And she's like, well, now you just go out and get
Uh-huh.
an agent, and
Uh-huh.
boy was that more to that.
Mhm.
So I submitted to some agents and got nothing.
Okay,
just,
okay.
just crickets.
Uh-huh.
And it was so weird because one of the women who were in the class with me, she did the same thing and got an agent just like that
Oh, really?
in
Okay.
Atlanta, an Atlanta agent. And I was like, and I used to remember getting discouraged. I'm like, well, what's wrong with
Mhm.
me? And da. So anyway, I just kept submitting, but I would never hear anything because when you submit, unless they like you,
Yeah.
you're not going to hear anything. You're
Right,
not
right,
going to
right.
get feedback or whatever.
Mhm.
So, and this is around 2014, 15.
Okay.
So I was just like, what is wrong with me? Meanwhile, I'm taking classes, continuing to perfect my craft or whatever.
Mhm.
So finally I got some feedback from this agency. They were like, your demo is horrible.
No.
And I was like, what do you mean?
Uh-huh.
They were like, they broke it down and they told me, and then they also said, how long have you been doing voiceover? And I was
Mhm.
like, a year and 12 and 10 months or whatever, thinking that's a long time or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm using the benchmark of my classmate who got a agent in like
Right
2 days,
away. Yeah,
you know?
yeah, yeah.
So she said, "Who's your favorite?" She started asking me questions. "Who's your favorite voice actor?"
Mm.
Crickets.
Mhm.
Who do you admire? Who have you studied with? What classes have you taken? Have you done
Yeah.
10,000 hours in
Oh, wow, yeah,
voiceover?
yeah,
I was
wow.
like, no. So she was like, you're just at the beginning. You need to eat, sleep, and drink voiceover.
Mhm.
And when she said that, Ferlin, that's exactly what I did.
Mhm, mhm,
I ate, drank, and slept voiceover.
mhm.
I listened to TV. I was always a TV person. I listened to
Yeah.
TV, radio, whatever. Meanwhile, working a full-time job. I took
Mhm. Wow.
classes, all that. I listened, I started looking up people, looking up commercials, trying to
Mhm.
find who was behind it. And at that time, as a Black woman, I was just like, I couldn't find very few Black voice actors.
Yeah.
And then when I would submit, I always thought it was weird because they always wanted to know gender
Mhm.
and race, especially in the South. And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, what does that have to do with it? Because it's just the voice, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
So anyway, I just would keep at it, and eventually I wanted to get on this particular agency in Atlanta, and they had a list of resources that you could use to reach out to. So reached
Mhm.
out to one of the resources, which was a coach, and I was like, I'm not getting any work. No, is my demo bad? Because I mean, when you think about it, you're like, I sound good, and you send it to your
Yeah, you think you
relatives or
sound
whatever, and they're like, you
yeah.
sound
You sound
great.
great, yep.
And here's the
Yeah.
key. If somebody says it doesn't even sound like you,
Yeah, that's a
that's
problem, red flag.
red flag because it's like it should sound like you because it's
Yeah.
you, whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I found a coach and they sent me to another coach and
Mhm.
we worked on my commercial demo and my narration demo and it sounded like me.
Oh, nice.
And I was very
Cool.
happy with it. And so I started submitting again.
Mhm.
Um, and I got an agent. I mean,
Mhm.
not in Atlanta immediately, but I started submitting to smaller agencies across the country, and I
Mhm.
started getting agents. And then I know I signed up with an agent. Well, actually, they start looking for me.
Mhm.
So they reached
Oh,
out
wow.
to
Oh.
me. They reached out to me and was like, "Hey, we want you to be on our roster." Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Yay!" And then about a month later, I booked a job. I was the first
Nice.
voice actor that booked a job because they were just starting.
Mhm.
They had come from another well-known agency and was just starting. And so
Wow.
when I booked that job, Ferlin, I was like, "Oh my God."
Mhm.
Yes, it was like
Yeah.
confirmation. Because a lot of times you're just like, especially going through the journey, am I
Mhm.
good enough?
Right.
Is this good or what? I mean, we're in the booth trying to self-direct ourselves.
Mhm.
Is this good? It sounds good to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a journey for sure. So I just started booking. And after that, I say bookings beget bookings.
Mhm.
Sometimes you get in
It's
that
good to know.
space or that time where once you get a booking, you're just gonna keep getting more bookings.
Yeah.
So it worked out, and so
Mhm.
I just like I said, just really just made the craft my number one thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You
Yeah.
just said, bookings beget bookings. What do you think that is? Do you think it's the confidence
I
boost that
think it is.
comes?
I think
Okay.
it is. I think once you it's like validation. Um, like I said, when I got that first booking, which was a huge booking, and I
Mhm.
remember the agent saying, "Oh my god, this is incredible. Do you know
Mhm.
you were chosen out of 600 people, or whatever?" Because the
Oh,
audition
yeah.
had been going around to different agencies for a while, but I didn't have any, so it was my first time, seeing the script or whatever. So,
Mhm.
um, I was just like, I don't know. I was just so happy. I mean, it was such a big booking, Ferlin. They flew me out to New
No.
York.
Oh, to use
Okay.
their studio?
So I had a job, a full-time job,
Yeah.
and I remember my agent calling, "Can you go to New York?" And this is one thing, and I've said this on other things, but I never let my full-time job know about my voiceover, and I never let my voiceover know about my full-time job.
Okay.
I just felt like they needed to be separate.
Okay. Okay.
So, they didn't know I didn't have a they had that I had a full-time job. So I was like, "Oh
Mhm.
my God." So I just wrote an email. I was like, "Hey, something's come up. I
Uh-huh.
won't be at work tomorrow."
That's all you gotta do, shoot.
Exactly. So the next day, they had a car come and pick me up.
Mhm.
I got on the plane, flew to New York, and I had lived in New York before, so
Mhm.
it wasn't, like that scary for me. So
Mhm.
flew to New York, stayed in a night, and then the next day I was in a booth about this big in an agency, and it was
Mhm.
like 6 people behind the glass.
Oh, you can see them behind it. Okay,
Yes, and
okay.
then the audio engineer next to me outside the booth behind the glass. And I
Mhm.
was like, "Oh my God." And I think I got there about 9 a.m. and they worked me till about 3 p.m.
Was
because it
you
was
said 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
it was
Okay,
like a
okay.
job. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh my God,
It's
I'm
no joke.
tired." you know, but it was such a great experience because, you have to be ready. You got to be able to take direction. I mean, they want you to do and say, so
Yeah.
much. And that was back in the old days. So,
Mhm, mhm,
everybody has their studio now, so you don't really get that experience. Sometimes I miss it. But so it
mhm.
was a huge job. And so that just had me, I was like, oh my God, if this is what it's like,
Yeah,
then
you
I'm
want
gonna
more of
quit
it.
next week, which thank God I didn't.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it was a huge job and I just felt confident because that was kind of like validation, like, okay, maybe I am kind of good. You know what
Mhm.
I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
what's her name? Sally Field. They do like me, or you really
Yeah.
do like me. So it's that because again,
Yeah.
this when you're putting yourself out there, it's a mindset thing. It's you
Mhm.
know, to be
Yeah.
judged. And, we're pretty much rejected daily with all these
Mhm.
auditions and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so it was, that was a nice boost for me. I kind of like set the level I was like, oh,
It was
so this is what it's like. So I'm gonna get this much money and get
Yeah.
these type of TV commercial bookings. And
Mhm.
and I kept asking God, I'm like, God, is this what I'm
Mhm.
going to be? This is what it's about because now I'm going to quit, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but it was not the case. So,
Uh-huh.
anyway,
So what you're telling me is that when you book a big commercial job, you don't book a big commercial job
no,
every
no,
week? Like
I'm not.
it's not once or
I'm
twice a week?
saying my experience. That's what
No,
happened with me.
no, no, what I
Um,
mean is that in the industry, like that's the common story. It's like it doesn't happen all the time. I know in
it
people's mind,
does
like
not.
you're not booking commercial jobs several times a week or whatnot. But it seems like you were thinking that for one quick second.
Yeah, I was. I was like,
Yeah, I can only
this is what
imagine.
it's like. If this, and it was a nice chunk of money.
Yeah,
It was a nice chunk of money. So I'm like,
yeah,
"Oh, I'm gonna be getting this every time I book or whatever,"
yeah.
and
You
it's
find
like,
out it's a
"No."
little bit.
Yeah, it's a lot different. So,
So I think that's a good segue to like, what are some of the challenges that you find like you faced or are facing in the voiceover industry? Like something's maybe a few that stand out to you.
yeah. Some of the challenges are, first of all, self-directing yourself. I mean,
Hmm.
you're in a booth and you really have to have a producer's or a non-biased ear.
Yeah.
Um, and you have to be able to remove yourself from listening
Hmm.
to yourself and
Yeah.
think outside the box. And it's like, can this really air on television?
Hmm.
Like, is this okay? Put video to tape and we're done.
Hmm.
So just self-directing is very challenging. Also, because this is such a creative type of job, you have to be a whole person.
Hmm. What do you mean by
So
that?
meaning, like, I know coming from corporate America, let's say you had some, I don't know, personal issues or whatever, you could
Hmm.
pretty much hide it and get away with it at
Oh
work. And
yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you have things going on, emotionally or physically,
Hmm.
and you get in this booth,
It's
you
gonna
gotta,
tell on you.
you gotta leave it outside the booth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just dealing with, and I just recently went through the loss of my father.
Hmm.
And that just really did a number on me
Hmm.
mentally and emotionally. And every day is different, but I'm pushing through. But so
Hmm.
you have to really you have to step outside yourself and just be like, okay,
Mhm.
it's a lot of compartmentalizing your emotions, at least for me,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
No,
So when I
absolutely.
say you have to be a whole person, you got to be a whole person, meaning like present and ready to get on the mic and not think about the rest of what's going on outside the booth and outside your
Mhm.
brain, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
um, and then just
Not to
go ahead.
cut you off, but just
Mhm.
like going through, because I know you went through with your father, uh, and it takes time to heal. And but when you did get back in the booth, how do you put that aside? I mean, can you really put something
Yeah,
like that
I
aside?
mean, it's hard to put aside because I'm still going through. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like this is the seventh month,
Mhm.
or the
Mhm.
eighth month since he passed away. So it's hard. But what I think about with my personal story and the loss of my father, I know that he is not suffering anymore and he's in
Mhm.
a better place. And that is what brings me comfort. And I know he
Mhm.
would want me to keep going. So
Mhm.
that kind of thought, like if I'm having a down day or something triggers. I remember one time I had a booking and the audio engineer's name was the same name as my
Oh
father.
man.
And
And
I
it
was
hit
just
you.
like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
okay. And I just kind of like turned around like, yep, pretend he's your dad
Okay.
you
Okay.
know?
You know
And
that, yeah.
because I couldn't think about it too hard because I didn't wanna be, break
Yeah.
down on the and so you just have to really have a whole mind.
Yeah.
And also you have to that's why my faith is so important to me because
Mhm.
if it wasn't for my faith, I don't know if I could sustain this.
Mhm.
I'm a very competitive person
Mhm. Mhm.
and meaning like I'm driven, okay?
Mhm.
And
Okay.
it's like you can't think about all these things. Why am I not booking? What's wrong
Yeah.
with me? That you can't even go down that faith. You just have to I have to have a mindset of what's for me is for me. The
Mhm.
commercial that's for me is for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I'm still great.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Whether
Yeah.
I got it or not. And
Mhm.
I'm very happy for if I find out somebody that I know actually know got it, I'm even more happy because I consider
Mhm.
that in the neighborhood.
No,
I'm like,
nice.
we're
Yeah.
linked, and
Wait.
so I know it's coming soon, you know?
Yeah. That's a good way of thinking of it. When you said, I was something I wanted to go back to. You said that about eating and sleeping and
And
drinking
drinking
voiceover
water.
when that coach told you about that, or the agent, I think.
Yeah. Mhm.
What does it mean to you? Like, what were
Mhm.
you doing? What is eating, sleeping, and drinking voiceover?
Okay.
Mhm.
So, like I said, at the time I had a full-time job. So
Okay.
I would be listening to commercials. I would be taking notes. I would be mimicking commercials. On
Mhm.
the way to work, on my drive to work, I would be listening to all VO podcast.
Mhm.
I would be listening to Pandora, iHeart, anything, and listening to the commercials, Amazon, whatever.
Mhm.
I would sign up for class. I would be reading articles.
Mhm.
I set up Google alerts on
Mhm.
voice acting and
Mhm.
just read whatever.
Yeah.
Taking a lot of classes, doing workouts, um, just everything. I
Yeah.
used the pay to play at that time, and it was a different time. The pay to play was different.
Yeah. I heard they were
Um,
better back in the day.
yeah, it was a little bit better.
Okay.
But I use that as a way to perfect and practice.
Yeah.
So I was always submitting auditions,
Mhm.
that I thought that I met the specs.
Yeah.
So things like that, you're just constantly in the every day your mouth is moving.
Mhm. Mhm.
I volunteered at a radio station for the blind.
I remember you told me that. Yeah.
And I read for them once a week live
Mhm.
at 6:30 in the morning. And that experience, just being in the environment of a microphone, of a radio or studio
Mhm.
station at the time, and this was before I had my own studio, but so just that experience and reading cold,
Mhm.
that really helped me
Yeah.
because when you're live, you're live. I mean, you can just kind of correct it on slide, but
Yeah.
I began to perfect cold reading, which I think is so key in voiceover, in my opinion,
Mhm.
because when you get that script and you can kind of, and it's almost like acting too and improv.
Mhm.
you should be able to interpret as you go on,
Okay.
as you're reading the script. And if
Yeah.
you get it done 9 times out of 10, I typically use my first take
Really?
because I typically nail the way I want to sound,
Mhm.
and then it's almost like then the second take I start getting in my head and I
Oh,
start
okay.
tripping up or whatever. But the first take when it's raw and natural,
Yeah, you like
I
that one the
that
best.
works for me
Okay.
because and I think part of that is because the drama ministry I was in,
Yeah.
reading scripts out loud, before rehearsing and practicing, and then also the cold reading with reading for the blind. I mean,
Mhm.
when you're reading a newspaper, no, it's not, entertaining, so to speak, but when
Mhm.
you're reading a newspaper, the Atlanta Journal Constitution, at 6:30 in the morning, you don't want to make mistakes. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that just really got me in a good habit. And I did that, I'm gonna say from 2014 up until the pandemic.
Oh, really? Okay, so you were doing that often.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every week, like
Every week for
clockwork.
the okay.
Every
Nice, nice.
Thursday at 6:30 in the morning. So I would get up, and be on the road about 6 a.m. It wasn't any traffic at that time in Atlanta.
Mhm.
And it was so convenient. Again, another God thing. It was 2 minutes from my job.
Mhm.
I could
Oh,
literally
okay.
walk
Yeah.
right after I finished. I could literally walk
Mhm.
around the corner and go to my job.
No, that's nice.
So, it just really it worked for me. So that was part of my eat, sleep, drink routine.
Yeah.
I would once a week go and read at the radio station, listen to podcasts, listen
Mhm.
to radio. I purposely got a Pandora, uh, I didn't sign up for the ads,
Oh, okay.
because I wanna hear the ads.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you didn't sign
Because
up to get rid of the ads.
yeah,
Oh,
to get
sign yeah,
rid of
yeah,
the
yeah. Right,
ads,
right, right. Yeah,
because I
yeah.
wanna hear the ads because
Yeah.
I'm visualizing that's gonna be me
Yeah.
on there.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. You name a lot of, techniques and methods, and, does that apply to the new voice actor? Obviously, it does, but would you suggest that if someone wants to get into the business, that they do
yeah.
that? Is there anything else you would add to that?
I always say eat, sleep, and drink voiceover. If you want to get
Mhm.
into it, because this thing is not, you're just not reading a script and then
Yeah.
that's it. No, that's not what
Mhm.
this is about. This is This is serious, and the competition has, I mean, expanded, grown
Mhm.
exponentially since 2020
Mhm.
because it was the job Google said you could do from home.
Oh,
And
okay,
so
okay.
everybody was like, "Oh, okay, let me get a
I'll
mic." I
do it.
mean, even
Yeah.
back then, when I say back then, I call it COVID. During
Mhm.
COVID
Mhm.
voiceover,
Mhm. Okay, okay.
you couldn't even get equipment.
Okay.
It
Oh,
was on
yeah, I get
hold
yeah.
because
Okay.
everybody
Yeah.
or back ordered. So I
Yeah.
always tell, especially new, because the competition is much greater now. So
Mhm.
you have to be better than good. You
Mhm.
have to be better than best. You got to be almost better than excellent,
Mhm. Mhm.
because the
Yeah.
competition is stiff.
Yeah.
It is stiff. Um,
Mhm.
and you gotta, if you want to do it, you gotta know. I mean, it's just like being a musician,
Mhm.
or a
Yeah,
singer.
yeah, yeah.
They don't just sing one day and then be like, "Oh, I'll get a song and then I'll sing it and then it'll be
Yeah.
great." No, you
They're
have
always
to keep your
practicing.
craft. Yeah, you have to keep your craft up.
Yeah.
So,
No, absolutely.
yeah,
No,
I
that's true.
definitely tell
It's like
people that.
yeah, just thinking, yeah, it's literally all day, every day. You're pushing me right now. I'm listening to you. I'm like, hey, yeah, I gotta. I mean, sometimes you know how you think you're doing something, but then you listen to someone else and say, oh, they're doing more than I am. So I've heard this just since I've been doing my interviewing podcast. It's just like,
Okay.
wait, I gotta just step it up. But that's what it's, we've talked about masterminds and groups and
Mhm.
whatnot, but it's just being around people who are better or better than you or just doing more.
Yeah.
It changes you, and I really like that. So I like listening to you. Like I said, I talked with Steven and Terry as
Yeah.
well so far, and it's been awesome.
Yeah, and you
Yeah.
always wanna be, I mean, just like I always compare it to corporate America or this
Mhm.
journey to corporate America, you always wanna be in the room with people who are higher than you so that you
Mhm.
can get to that level,
Yeah.
and higher, so
Mhm.
you don't, and nothing against people who are not at the same level, it's not like a put down or anything, but
Yeah.
you wanna know what it takes to get, there,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know?
No,
So
absolutely, absolutely. Always striving forward and upward, if you will.
Yeah, yeah,
Is there more to being a voice actor than just using your voice? Like, if you wanna start to make this your lifestyle, make this a business, because you've talked to me, like, when I first got to know you, like, just I got to know Sandy by networking.
yeah,
Networking and just reaching out on LinkedIn. I reached out to her, and then she said something about audio editing to me, and I'm like, "Oh, she'll never reach out to me about audio editing," and then she reached out a week later. I was like, "Oh, she was serious." And then
yeah,
we started communicating back and forth about voiceover, and then she has opened my mind to so many things, especially just like with how to lay out your business, like
yeah,
bank
the
accounts and
business.
all this stuff.
Yeah,
So if someone's getting started in voice acting or they've been in it and they want to make it a business,
yeah.
is all they need their voice, or is there more to it?
No, no, you need more than that. Let me tell you, I so I'm gonna go back to that first big job that I talked about that I booked.
Hmm.
Okay, that job, full transparency, at that time paid $15,000.
Mamma mia.
Okay? I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna quit," and all this kinda stuff. So
Hmm.
anyway, $15,000. Now, mind
Yeah.
you, I was still working a full-time job, okay?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I registered with the Secretary of State and got me a little, name or whatever, and
Yeah.
got a bank account, a
Hmm.
business bank account, and was like, "Okay, that should be it." And then,
Hmm.
when you get these jobs before you actually book but you're notified that you got them, you're gonna be filling out paperwork, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
And I remember been getting the paperwork and I'm like, well, okay. I just kind of filled it out, just like you would fill out a regular job or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, when I got the check, Uncle Sam said, "Yay,
Yeah.
we got
Yeah.
$15,000 and we
Uh-huh.
got what?" So anyway, I got like, I mean, I don't even know after the agency takes their cut,
Yeah, that's right.
I just
Yeah.
feel like I didn't even get any money. I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, I'm gonna say it was probably like three to
No.
$5,000.
No.
Okay.
Really?
And the
Wow.
reason why is because my business was not structured properly. I had a
Okay.
partnership. Okay. Who the other partner was, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
yeah.
was just trying to set up something or whatever. And this
Mhm.
was before, was it? It may have been in the midst because again, you don't know, you got to be ready. Okay.
Mhm.
You can't
Mhm.
be like getting ready. And
Mhm.
so I had to hurry up and get a Secretary of State, and so anyway, they used my Social Security number, okay,
Okay,
to
okay.
get so when you do that, I have a full-time job, and my
Yeah.
full-time job at that time was in IT, so I made a pretty nice, thank you Jesus, salary,
Mhm.
and so when you add on this extra money,
Oh, they
they
start
typically like, "Oh,
oh,
this is a
yeah.
bonus, so we're just gonna take
Yeah.
40 to 50% of that."
Oh, wow. And that makes sense 'cause that it was your Social Security number, so it is attached directly. Yeah. Wow.
So,
Okay.
I didn't know what I was doing. All I know was I got the check and I was like, "What? Is
Mhm.
this what it's about?"
Yeah.
And what I did was when I got my taxes done, I
Mhm.
asked my tax for my accountant. I was like, "How can get all this money?" Because I had heard that, oh, if you're a S corp, you just,
Mhm.
you get all the money or whatever. And I was like, "What?" or whatever. So anyway, I talked to my accountant, and he said, "Okay, you have a partnership. So
Mhm.
who's your other partner?" I was like, "I don't know. My
Uh-huh.
husband, 1%." But anyway,
Yeah.
so so anyway, he said, "Your business is structured wrong." So he
Okay.
helped me set up my business the way it should be structured. And
Mhm.
then he was like, "You need to get an EIN number."
Mhm.
And so he got me an EIN number.
Mhm.
Um, and it worked from that point on. I was like, "Oh, okay. So I have to set it up properly." And all this is individual because everybody's situation is different. I had
Okay.
a job and I was doing voiceover.
Yeah.
So that worked for me. You know what I mean? But somebody may not need a escort. They may need a partnership. I don't know. It just
Mhm.
depends. You have to really consult an accountant and a legal
Yeah.
person. And it's so different because the legal person was like, "Well, you need to talk to an accountant." Then the accountant was like, "Well, you need to talk to a legal person." And
Uh-huh.
so it's
It's
like,
like,
"Well,
"What
what
do
do
you
I
want me to
do?"
do here?"
Exactly. So I went through that a little bit, and there's no one person. You have to just go with your gut, and for me, I prayed about it. I was like, okay, I guess this is right, and so it
Mhm.
was right. And
Yeah.
so from then on, I was like, okay, I'm not getting ready to miss money anymore. So
Mhm.
I said it was set up properly. And I start saying, I'm going to treat this like a business. And I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. If you could ask
Mhm.
me, 30, 40 years ago, feel like
Yeah.
entrepreneur, no, I want a job where I know I'm gonna get a check every 2 weeks and I'm gonna get health insurance.
Mhm.
But now we're here and I'm a business woman. And so you have
Mhm.
to set up your processes, your business structure, and everything needs to be legit and
Okay.
separate. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of people during COVID, if you didn't have your stuff set up, you didn't qualify for whatever the money they were giving out if you needed
Okay.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
those are
yeah.
just little cues that you need to have your stuff set up
Yeah.
properly and run it like a business. So my goal was to do voiceover full time.
Mhm.
So I said, I'm going to make me a plan where I have to be able to make 25% of my salary,
Okay.
in
Mhm.
supplemental income and voiceover. Then I moved it the next year to 50% of my salary.
Mhm.
Then I moved it to 75% of my salary. And then by the time
Mm.
COVID came, it was just a good time. I was ready and set up
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Source Connect and all that. Because
yeah.
again, you're looking at people, well, how do I get to book like that? And I remember talking to another voice actor and she was like, do you have Source Connect? And I was like, no, because I'm
Mm.
scared and it's foreign and da da da. And she was like, okay, that's a game changer. And once I got Source Connect, it was a game changer.
Yeah.
So again, you have to be ready. So 2020, if you had Source Connect, a good mic, and you had the chops,
Mhm.
you were golden. You easily made at least 5 to 6 figures,
Yeah, yeah,
high
yeah.
5 to 6 figures. So,
Mhm.
and your business needs to be set up. So you need to have, again, I can't tell you if you need an S Corp or doing business as or whatever. It depends, but you need to make sure it's set up properly. You need to save your money. That's another thing I did during my time while I was working. Everything I made in voiceover from that point on, I
Mhm.
saved. And let's
Mm.
say I had
Smart.
$5,000 on that job that I got. I
Mhm.
took I just went on and took 40% out for tax,
Mhm.
um 30% out for saving, and then I probably gave myself, the rest. But when I
Okay.
say gave myself the rest, I just put it in a checking account or a
Yeah.
savings account. So at that time I had three checking accounts. I had one for all that I got paid, anything that I got paid in, that was one account. And then
Mhm.
another account was actually a savings account where I saved for taxes because I just didn't know what to expect after
Yeah.
that shock
Smart.
of they taking,
Yeah.
40% of 15,000.
Yeah.
Then I set up another account for business savings for rainy day. I mean, this
Mhm.
because God showed me 15,000 in 2015.
Mhm.
I haven't made, well, I've come close. I haven't done a job that
That was that.
big
Yeah. Since
since
yeah.
then, just full
Yeah.
transparency.
Mhm.
So you have to be ready because, and during the time when last year was really rough helping taking care of my father. So I
Mhm.
wasn't in the booth as much. You got to supplement for that. And then eventually I started paying myself.
Okay.
Because I'm like, if you want to do this full time and it's a business, you are an employee. So I
Okay.
started paying myself and I started off with a real low salary. I was still working at the time. So
Mhm.
but I wanted to get in the habit. So I paid
Yeah.
myself like, less, this is full transparency,
Mhm.
like less than 30,000, but I was
Okay.
still getting a full-time check or whatever from my
Yeah.
job. So I just did that because I wanted to get in the habit of paying myself that when I did become full-time, then I would have that money seeded, if you will, so
Mhm.
that when it's slow in VO, I can
Yeah, you
still
can
pay
tell.
myself.
Yeah. When it's slow
So,
in VO, it gets slow in VO? Is it
yeah.
slow in
Well, for
VO
me,
right?
it
No.
got slow in VO. And I know
No.
I did a
You
post
know where
about
I'm
that,
going.
slow in
Yeah.
VO.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think and some people say, oh, well, the beginning of the year is slow, oh, the end of the year is slow. I
Mhm.
think it just varies on the person because last year, December, that was my highest month. And I
Okay.
wasn't even in the booth a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But once you get some big jobs, and when you get those big jobs, um, it's fast money. So I
Uh-huh.
got that
Yeah.
$15,000. Well, I didn't get 15,000, but I
Yeah.
booked the $15,000. Okay, if that was my only source of income and I didn't have a full-time job, okay, so after 15,000 or whatever I got ran out,
Mhm.
okay, next month.
Mhm.
You know, you gotta it's a ever the money needs to be coming in consistently, especially if you're gonna pay yourself.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's why it's important. That's why I always tell people save, especially if you're working and doing voiceover or anything,
Mhm.
save your money
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's not going to always be on the up and up. Now, if you
Yeah.
get to the point where like you have a product or you have other streams of income, then yeah,
Mhm.
but for the most part, if you're the sole provider and it's a physical gift or
Mhm.
talent you're using,
Oh,
you need
yeah.
to account for
For all that. Yeah,
for
that makes
all
a lot
that.
of
I mean,
sense.
what if your
Yeah.
voice goes out or what if,
Yeah.
are in an accident or something, you can't get in the booth.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You from what I hear from you, and I've said known you for a couple years now, but you plan well, strategize well. Do you? I mean, I know you helped me like a ton with this stuff,
Um,
and I'm so grateful for that. But do you help other people? Do you help? Are you someone people can come
yeah,
to and
I
say,
and
"Sandy, I need help. I heard you talk. You are the best advice giver, the strategy giver. Like, how can?"
absolutely. I love helping people. I mean, I used to be a
Mhm.
social worker and my major ended
Okay.
up being psychology. So I love helping people. And also I think about when I was, 2013 till now, I
Mhm.
remember just feeling alone. I'm like, I don't know
Mm.
anybody. Am I doing right? Is this the right rate?
Oh yeah.
Should I quote,
Mhm.
what should I be doing next? And so I am always available to help. And I just recently started offering consultations
Okay.
and assessments
Mhm.
for voice assessments, meaning like knowing which way to go, like, okay, should I do more narration or whatever? Because a lot
Mhm.
of people I know at that time when I was on the journey, I was like, well, what niche, what genre should I do?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember somebody else telling me your genre will find you.
Hmm.
Like I was like, "Oh, I want to do commercials." Everybody want to do commercials.
Yeah. True.
Okay,
True.
but obviously it's very competitive. It's like
Yeah.
super competitive.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to do commercials.
Mhm.
So in the meantime, yes, go for commercials, but what other genre can you do?
Mhm.
Um, and so you have to think about that. You have to think of your voice acting career and the genres. I kind of look at it as like a portfolio. So if you have a
Mhm.
financial portfolio, you got stocks, bonds, EFTs, maybe some bitcoins or whatever. Okay,
Mhm.
voiceover. Commercial is your ultimate, and if you're good at it, then that's your bread and butter. But what other genres are, how are you diversifying your portfolio of voiceover work? Do you do
Mhm.
e-learning? Do you do narration? Because e-learning, as boring as it may seem to people,
Mhm.
pays the bills.
Yeah.
E-learning pays my salary,
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
lot. So you have to make sure you have a diverse set of, you can't just rely on that one $15,000 commercial.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You gotta
Yeah.
have stuff coming in all the time.
Yeah.
So, get on as many production rosters as you can, get on, get repeat clients as much build your business as you are learning and growing. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
the best part about having a job and doing this because
Mhm.
you can build up your client your customers and your clients.
Mhm.
Um and so it's good. And yes, everybody wants to do it full time, but you got to take your time,
Yeah. No,
before you go
absolutely.
full time and make sure
Yeah.
that you are structuring and setting up. And it doesn't always have to be all at the same time. You have to grow. And like
Okay.
Karen Gilfrey always says,
Mhm.
grow as you go.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and that's why, me and you talk, goals are a big thing for me.
Mhm.
Like you need to have a goal every year, some goals
Yeah.
for your voiceover career, for your business, how much you want to make, how much income you want, and how you're going to get to those
Yeah.
goals. So,
Absolutely. You have a ton of
thank
knowledge and
you.
information, and then I think is great. And then I'm just thinking here, like, you mentioned this is what I wanted to bring up
Okay.
with the full. You saying having a full time job and then building your clientele. Are you saying that it's better that way, or at least from your opinion, it's better that way because? Are you saying it's better because during that you still have income coming in, so you don't have there's no much that not
You're
much
not
pressure on you or
pressed.
whatnot? Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's
Okay.
the old. Word. But you're
Mhm.
not pressed. Like when I had a full-time job and doing voiceover, I would do the auditions. Of course, I would give my best ever,
Mhm.
but I knew I was gonna go to work and get a check
Yeah.
regardless. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
So my income kind of grew as time went on. Like that first year, I may have made, I don't, that one job, $15,000.
Mhm.
That may have been the only job I got at that time.
Mhm.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? But I
Yeah.
had a full-time job to, sustain me. And that's why I always preach save your money.
Save your money.
Save your
Yeah.
money. If you have
Mhm.
a full-time job and doing, save it.
Mhm. So you don't
And
think I shouldn't go buy a Lamborghini right away when
no,
I Okay,
no.
okay.
And another thing, a lot of people told me, "Well, you can just write it off."
Yeah.
Like all these
That's not
expenses
as
and stuff.
that's not
Yes,
as
you
y
can write it off at the end of the year, but
Yeah.
in the meantime, you need to pay it off. And
Yeah.
that was one thing I learned also when I had a full-time job and doing voiceover, I just kept hearing, "You can write it off, you can write it." So I was like, "Okay, I can write it off." And
Mhm.
so then I had a $7,000 credit card bill
Mhm.
because
Okay.
I can write it off.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, you can write it off, but you
Mhm.
got to pay it off too. So
Yeah.
you want
Yeah.
to build your business credit as you are building your business as well. So
Mhm. Mhm.
after that, I said, okay, I got to pay this off. And so I had to use my full-time job money to pay
Mhm.
off that
Yeah.
voiceover debt. And I said, never again
Mhm.
will I accumulate debt like that. I'm just going to pay off my credit card, my voiceover credit card business account bill at the end of each month, like a credit card is supposed to be. And
Mhm.
so, where that seed money came in, where all those years where I didn't touch any of the money, and I
Mhm.
put some in operating and some in savings and some in taxes,
Mhm.
that seeded me all those years from 2000. I think I did that first job 14 to all the way 20. I just
Okay.
saved that
Okay.
money. And it wasn't like a
Yeah.
lot of money, but it was enough to
Mhm.
seed me so that when it's slow in VO,
Yeah, you
I'm
got
like,
something.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you should have in my opinion, you should have an account for at minimum operating expenses,
Mhm.
savings account, and make it a high yield savings account. Make
Okay.
some money while you saving your money.
Mhm.
And taxes, high yield savings account, and then an income account, a checking account,
Okay.
to get all your checks in. And another thing, I know I'm saying a lot,
No,
make
you're
sure
good.
you have like a gazillion ways to get paid.
Okay. And you
Don't
mean
just
like
have
what, like
PayPal
yeah.
and Zelle,
Okay.
or you know,
Yeah.
have several ways. And of course, the checks. Oh my God, I learned my
Mhm.
lesson on the checks because our mail system is hurting. I don't know what it's doing,
Okay.
but you don't hire. I mean, I've gotten several checks or not gotten several checks
Mhm.
because they're just in the mail or
Really?
whatever. And these people legitimately sent the check. It's just
Yeah.
never got to me
Yeah,
for
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
reason. And so they have to send another one.
Mhm.
So I try to get most of my clients off checks as much as possible, as much as my control. So have several ways to get paid. I
Mhm.
don't deal with PayPal. That's just me personally.
Okay.
But Zelle, I even signed up recently for ACH wire transfer through my bank.
Okay.
Look
I'm
at,
gonna have to do
you
that.
know,
Okay. Okay.
look at your bank and see what they offer.
Mhm.
I have Stripe, I
Mhm.
have Melio,
Mhm.
I have what else do I have? It's like 9 things. Bill.com is
Okay.
another
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
Gusto,
Mhm.
WePay. I mean, all these ways to get paid
Yeah.
is very essential because you want your money. And yes, they all are going to get a cut,
Yeah,
but
they
you
are. Yeah.
can write it off. At
Mhm.
the end of the year, you can
Okay.
write off all those. I mean, just like your agent fee,
Yeah. You can
they're
write the
going to
agent
get
fee
their
off?
cut. Yeah, you
Okay.
can write the agent fee off.
Okay.
So, so yeah,
Absolutely.
my biggest, this is all learning too, just learning how to run a business.
Mhm.
Um, and instead of eat, drink, and sleeping VO now, I still do it, obviously, but
Mhm.
I'm also looking at other things like how to run a business, how to market. So I'm learning more
Yeah.
about that
It's a
because it's going to
continuous
help my business.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're continually growing and improving your business in order to meet your goals, whatever they are. So,
No, absolutely. I feel like I've been looking a lot at branding and marketing. I still don't know the difference between the two. I think they're connected, but
Yeah.
I keep looking into that. And
Yeah.
sometimes I probably should focus more on eating, sleeping, and drinking. But I guess I am in a different way. But
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes your
you're just
attention
it's a
goes this
different
way,
sector.
sometimes it's here,
Yeah.
sometimes it's there. But I think, yeah, I guess either way you're moving forward because it's interesting to hear
Right,
like
because it's part of
that's
your
what you're
business.
learning now. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's
absolutely.
part of your business. So marketing is part
Hmm.
of, I mean, you're wearing several hats as
Yeah.
a entrepreneur. So you're
Hmm.
marketing, you're accounting, so you got to
Yeah.
learn about all that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of branding, you are wearing some shirt that looks like you probably made this shirt. What does it
Yes.
say?
Oh,
What is
this is just my personal shirt because
Okay.
my line or my brand is Soul Purpose VO because
Okay.
my sole purpose of doing VO is to use my God-given talent to connect,
Mhm.
serve, engage, and inform. And
Awesome.
so that's my tagline. And I just one day made a shirt because most of my attire for when I'm in this booth is shorts and t-shirts or
Yeah,
pants or jogging sweats and t-shirt. And so I was like, I'm gonna make me a shirt. So I have
yeah.
connect, serve, engage, inform, soul purpose VL, and on the back I
Awesome.
have voice of Sandy. So
Okay.
yeah. Um and I also made some other shirts as well. And I just one of my goals was, and God gave this to me.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
again, when VO is slow, you got to have multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
So, what else can you do? So I offer assessments and consultations, and one is a business assessment too, which I
Mhm.
want you to take the quiz. It's
Okay.
kind of like a quiz just to kind of see where you are, and then we talk
Absolutely.
and find out what the next steps are for you and your business structure.
Okay.
Um, but
Absolutely.
I also have T-shirts. I have a journal
Awesome.
that
Open the journal. Let's
when I
see the
used
inside.
to get in the booth, you can't really
Oh, it's
see it,
hard to
but
see. Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah.
cool.
But when you get in the booth or when I got in the booth and I would have bookings,
Mhm.
I would have like these little yellow sticky papers and I would just
Ooh.
be constantly writing notes down like, okay, audio
It's
engineer
just
name is Ferlon, or
uh-huh.
they want me to do this, or this is take one. So I would just be writing, and
Yeah.
then I would just and then I would forget about it.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I have to work on. I don't celebrate myself. Like I
Mhm.
just I'll book and I'll be like, "Yay," and then go on to the next job.
Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah.
think it's important to celebrate yourself and celebrate, and that's
Makes
where that
sense.
bookings beget bookings because you need to celebrate yourself. You did
Mhm.
a good job. You
Makes
beat
sense.
out
Yeah.
however many people,
Yeah.
they chose your voice and,
Yeah.
so I created this journal where you can write down the date, the time, the project name, the client name, how you connected, the studio name, what genre, and any notes about it. And it's
Yeah.
really helpful because, part of marketing and retaining
Ooh.
clients is just
Yeah.
standing out and being special. And so if you
Mhm.
write down a note, Ferlin was so funny in that audio session. You can send you a note at Christmas and be like, "Hey, Ferlin," and refer back to
Yep, yep, and they're gonna
whatever that
remember.
comment. Yeah, and
Mhm.
so it's a nice little way to keep notes, and I call it
Absolutely.
kinda like a celebratory book for me because you can especially when it's slow, and you can get down, you be like, "I'm a loser," and then you be
Mhm.
like, "Oh, no, I
You
did
can
put
go
some
back and
oh,
look,
yeah." Yeah.
yeah.
You can go back and
And
look and like, "Oh,
you
yeah,
just
I
you
did. I'm not doing bad at all."
You just said 2 things that made me think. First, you brought up the yellow sticky notes. I'm like, "Were you in my booth?" Because I have them sticking everywhere, but I guess they're notes for performance. But you
Yeah.
also bring up, just feeling like a loser sometimes. I guess everybody goes through that,
Yeah.
and it's like, I keep learning that sometimes you think you're the only one, but I know that I'm not, and I'm continuing to
Yeah.
find that out.
Yeah.
And, so what do you do when that comes? Like, I know you said you'll look back at your bookings, but when you hear those words, "You're a loser. You're not the best.
Yeah.
You suck at what
My
you do," or
my
something like
inner
that.
me
What happens? Yeah, yeah.
My inner me? Well, first of all, I try to shut it up and just be
Mhm.
like, "No, you're not a loser." And sometimes I go back and look at the stuff that I've already booked, like
Okay.
on my YouTube channel or something, and it
Mhm.
just makes me feel good. Or I'll go back and read some emails. I get reinvigorated. Or sometimes I journal, or sometimes I start listening to the radio or TV and just say, okay, I go back to that eat, sleep, drink thing. So I'm
Okay.
like, okay, let me find out why I'm not booking, or
Mhm.
maybe, and again, nowadays with the competition, you got to be better than excellent.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And it also takes networking, and I mean, it's just voiceover or running this business for me is has so many similarities or parallels to corporate America
Okay.
and just
Mhm.
how you survive in corporate America. I
Okay.
mean, in corporate America, it's a game, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
And it's a game, and being a business owner is a game as well. And
Mhm.
game not with a negative connotation, but
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, what is your strategy? What are your goals? Who do I
Mhm.
need to talk to? Who do I need to connect with? Who can I network with? Who can I learn from? All that.
Mhm.
It's part of the culture. I remember
Mhm.
one time somebody told me in corporate America, you need to know the culture, you need to find allies, um, and you need to know the culture. And so you need
Makes
to
sense.
know the culture of voiceover, like what's trending,
Mhm.
what's not in, should I update my equipment?
Mhm.
All that.
Yeah.
You have to take in consideration. Do I need to take some classes? Do I need to look into a different genre? Do I need to step out and start auditioning for a different genre?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
That's
all
making me
about
think.
sustaining yourself in the mini corporate world of the business of Ferlon. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
No, absolutely. What are your favorite genres?
My favorite genre
Mhm.
is audio description.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
it's where it's for the visually impaired, and I think
Yeah.
it goes back to when I used to volunteer at the radio
Oh, yeah.
station for the blind. I
Mhm.
just love that genre. I don't know why. I love it. It does not pay a lot, but I
Mhm.
just love it. My second one would be e-learning. I love
Mhm.
e-learning because I just love
Yeah.
learning stuff.
Mhm.
So just different things that you learn in e-learning is just interesting
Yeah.
to me. And so then I'll get ready for Jeopardy later on. But
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
because you just know just a little bit, to answer a
Uh-huh.
question. But yeah, I love e-learning and audio description and in-show narration.
Okay. I
Love
wanna do
in-show
in-show
narration.
narration and documentaries. I have yet to get there. Have my
I do
demo. It's
too.
great, I
I
think.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
but,
I haven't gotten there either, and I
uh-huh.
want to get there.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, the audio description, I just take it like it's preparing me because audio description, sometimes you do voice to picture. So you'll have
Okay.
the video there, and the words will be up under there. And so a lot of times in show narration, you're reading to picture.
Okay.
And so I just take that. The last thing I did was Shirley on Netflix, and it was
Mhm.
video to picture.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I'm getting ready. I'm just getting ready because I'm
Yeah.
already getting prepared.
Yeah, no, that makes sense,
Every
yeah.
experience is the step to your next booking. That's how I look at it. I'm
Yeah,
like,
I like that
okay,
thought. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm getting ready. So,
No, I like that type of thinking.
yeah.
Look at you. I'm growing. I mean, I'm listening and I am growing right now, and I'm not joking.
Well, thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you. You've given a ton of knowledge, a ton of wisdom, a ton of yeah, I think even resources for people who are listening to this. But what if there anything you want to add that I didn't ask that you want people to know?
I just think if this is something that you real want to do,
Hmm.
like, you have to be serious about it, or anything that you wanna do that's
Hmm.
outside your current whatever job. You have to be serious, and it takes work. The only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. So,
Mm.
you have to work, you
Hmm.
know? And you also have to, I'm learning,
Hmm.
is to balance that, whatever that is. Even in corporate
Okay.
America, when I was trying to do work-life balance with the voiceover, even in voiceover, work-life balance, as well.
Hmm.
You know, eat, drink, sleep, voiceover to a certain extent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when you get to where you're going or you feel like, "Okay, I kinda got a hold on this," which is never, then
Hmm.
you can give yourself some grace. Like, I remember I was listening to your interview with Steven, and
Hmm.
he said that he tries to get his auditions in before the morning or whatever, which is
Hmm.
very key. That's another thing. you got to get the competition, the number of competition that you're up against, and then getting your audition in. And
Mm.
so I've come to realize my optimal time in the day, and it's between 11 and 2. And
Okay.
so I'll take a little break between 3 and 5, and then I call it my second shift. So when my husband
Mm-hmm.
comes home and we have dinner or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, okay, I'm going on my second shift just for a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
I used to work until like 11 p.m.
Really?
But now I because I've noticed that when you're tired, it comes through. And that's where
Yeah.
I go back to that whole part.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not whole and your mindset and you're not connected to the script, it's going to come through. And
Mm-hmm.
so I have learned you have to learn your optimal time and try to take advantage of that time. So I know from 9 to 11 I try to get in my auditions, as much as possible. 11 to
Mm-hmm.
2 I'm open for bookings or whatever.
Okay.
But in the afternoon I'm not as, up,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
But so I think you just have to learn yourself, and if you're doing it in addition to a job, it really takes you got to decompress after you get off work and get in
Mm-hmm.
that mindset
Makes sense.
and
Yeah.
really go at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if your optimal time is in the morning, then make a point of being consistent of doing auditions in the morning.
Yeah.
If your optimal time is in the evening after you get off work, then and this is for people who are trying to do both and trying to really eventually go into voiceover full time. So,
Yeah.
you learn a lot about yourself. You have to recognize what works for you, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have to give yourself grace and permission to not do,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, it's a journey for sure. It's ongoing. It's not like, "Okay,
Yeah.
now I know." No, it's
Mm-hmm.
ongoing. Just like
No.
life is.
Yeah. No, that's good to hear too, because sometimes, at least for me, I think most people, it's like I'll finally arrive and then everything will be good. But then it's not like that. It's a
Yeah,
continuous path.
yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure.
So how can people reach out to you when they watch this interview? Oh, I want her to voice my
Oh, well,
thingy thing.
just
I can't even think of the thing, but they want you to
just
reach
go,
out. Yeah.
everything is Voice of Sandy on
Okay.
Instagram, on LinkedIn, on my website, voiceofsandy.com,
Hmm.
at Voice of Sandy on, Instagram. I think it's Saundi Harrison-Cooksey, voice actor on LinkedIn. Facebook, I'm not really there a lot. I check in
Yeah.
sometimes, but yeah, just you can, and I have a contact page. You can contact me and I'm happy to help and
Yeah.
talk to anyone. Like I said, this is a lonely journey sometimes, and sometimes you
Hmm.
just need to talk and find out, are you sane?
Yeah. No,
Like,
absolutely.
sanity check. Should I charge this much for So,
Yeah. And just in case people are listening to this and not watching it and looking at the
mhm,
screen, how do
yeah.
how do you spell Sandy? Sandy.
Sandy, Saundi.
Okay.
Sandy.
Perfect. Now they know.
Thank
Now
you.
they know.
Yes, now they know, yes.
But yes, Sandy, I want to thank you again
Of
for
course.
being
Thank
a part of my
you. My
podcast.
pleasure.
It has been a pleasure. It really has been.
Same here.
And for you people out there, you have just watched another episode of the Keeping It Simple with Ferlon podcast, interview edition. And we shall see you again next time. Thank you again, Sandy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.